July 15th, 2018. Just a normal summer game between the Rays and Twins. Well, that was until the Twins put together a 2-out 7th inning rally to pull themselves back into the game. Notably, it was second baseman Brian Dozier who not only drove in a runner with an infield single, but ended up on third base as the go-ahead run. Seeing that the Rays infield was in a shift, Dozier took it upon himself to take a huge lead down the third base line in hopes of distracting the pitcher. And that's exactly what happened as Diego Castillo balked and the Twins took the lead. But then, tensions began to flare.
And now we've got Escobar, dugouts empty, and the bullpen. Side by side.
Yeah, everybody's coming in.
With both teams now playing with a fire underneath them, they ended up trading leads through the 9th inning. Then in the 10th, the Rays nearly continued this cycle, but their base runners were left stranded, and the Twins took advantage.
A deep drive to left field. Back and gone! A walk-off grand slam for Brian Dozier.
Walk-off hits were nothing new for Dozier, as this was the 6th of his career. Quite a high number considering he'd been a big leaguer for only 7 years. In fact, his time in the big leagues didn't last much longer as he played his final game 2 years later in 2020. Still, what Dozier accomplished in just 9 years is nothing short of impressive, especially considering he probably shouldn't have made it at all. Real quick, shout out to the people behind these comments for suggesting this video. And if you have an underrated team icon you'd like me to cover next, leave their name down in the comments below. The 2009 MLB draft was one of the sport's finest, introducing players like Mike Trout, Nolan Arenado, Steven Strasburg, and Paul Goldschmidt, among many others. In particular, Goldschmidt was the definition of a diamond in the rough, as he was drafted in the 8th round. However, he wasn't the only future All-Star selected in this round, as 6 spots later, college shortstop Brian Dozier was selected by the Twins. Even though he'd eventually become a major leaguer, the odds of reaching the big leagues were against him. After all, in his first couple minor league seasons, Dozier was nothing more than a contact-hitting shortstop with no real standout tools to rave about. Although, 2 beneficial traits he did possess was his confidence, as pointed out by his college coach Corky Palmer, and his obsession with proving people wrong. So, in 2011, the 23-year-old Dozier, who was coming off an uninspiring season in high A ball, needed to prove his worth to the Twins front office sooner rather than later. Well, that's exactly what he did. Transforming from a contact hitter to a power hitter, Dozier was named the organization's minor league player of the year. So, how did this happen? During his stint in AA, Dozier worked with hitting coach and former Twins All-Star Tom Brunansky. Interestingly, it was on the golf course where Brunansky discovered Dozier's untapped power. He saw that I was hitting the drive a long way. He kind of stopped right then and there and said, "We've got to translate that onto the baseball field and to your swing." It's not like I hit 30 home runs that season, but that kind of changed everything for me. With this new power-first mindset, Dozier had found his ticket to the big leagues.
Got a 2-out double in the first. Here's a high fly deep down the left field line. Dozier has sent it back and it is gone! His first major league home run, and the Twins get the first lead.
Brian Dozier was now a big league player. But what this meant was he had to prove his worth at the big league level. Initially, this was quite the challenge as he was demoted in the middle of his 2012 rookie season. Not just because of his lackluster offense, but his defense as well. This led to a permanent switch to second base in 2013. A decision Dozier took exception to at first, but ultimately he took on the mindset of becoming the best second baseman he can be. Not only did this position change keep Dozier in the big leagues, it's what allowed him to transform into one of the most unique sluggers in recent baseball history. After an offensively mediocre but encouraging 2013 season, Dozier matched his 2013 home home run total by the 2014 All-Star break, leading to an appearance in the Home Run Derby at Target Field. While he didn't win the competition, he stood out from the group as one of only 2 middle infielders to take part in the competition, the other being superstar shortstop Troy Tulowitzki. Historically, middle infielders, especially second basemen, haven't showcased as much power as their peers. So Dozier was already on track to place his name among some unique company, although he didn't showcase much home run power in the second half. Still, he was the main bright spot for an underwhelming Twins team, becoming the first player in franchise history since Torrey Hunter in 2004 to produce a 20 home run, 20 stolen base season. Now, with the breakout season in the books, there was a new question in the air. Who is Brian Dozier moving forward? The home run hitter from the first half or the second half? After all, following the 2014 season, the Twins gave him a $20 million contract. Ultimately, it didn't take long for Dozier to do what he's always set out to do: prove the doubters wrong. Not only was this Dozier's first career walk-off home run, this was his 17th home run of the year, by far the most among second basemen. Although, this wasn't even his biggest home run of the week. A few days later, on July 10th, the Twins were entering the bottom of the 9th down by 5 runs. To show just how unlikely a comeback was, in the top of the 9th, the Tigers had as much as a 100% chance of winning. But this Twins team was relentless. Batter after batter, they continued to drive in base runners until it was a 1-run game with Brian Dozier at the plate.
A drive to left field! Are you kidding me?
Just an inning earlier, this outcome was considered statistically impossible. But if there was anyone who built their career off beating the odds, it was Brian Dozier. The very next day, Dozier was rewarded with his first career All-Star team selection, and surprise, he hit a home run. Overall, Dozier proved his power was for real, but once again, he failed to replicate his first half performances in the second half. So the new question was this: can Dozier showcase his power through a full season? Well, the answer was unequivocally yes. Between 2016 and 2017, Dozier was one of the league's best players, particularly in 2016 when he hit 42 home runs, becoming one of only 5 players ever to hit 40 home runs while playing at least 75% of games at second base. Also, Dozier's historic power streak stretched further than just 2016. In MLB history, only 2 second basemen have hit 150 home runs in their first 6 seasons: Brian Dozier and Dan Uggla. 2 players with incredibly similar careers, but there were a couple aspects where Dozier had Uggla beat: defense and stolen bases. In fact, only 2 second basemen have produced at least 5 seasons with 30 doubles, 20 home runs, and 10 stolen bases: Dozier and Hall of Famer Craig Biggio. So, with all this being said, how did Dozier separate himself from his peers? This can be summarized in one phrase: elevating fastballs to the pull side. Dozier's patient approach not only resulted in more walks, it allowed him to crush fastballs. As he said back in 2014, "You don't succeed at this level by hitting breaking balls. You succeed by not missing fastballs." Still, while Dozier was known for his home runs, he wasn't known for hard-hit batted balls, as both his average exit velocities and hard hit rates sat around league average. This is where Dozier separated himself. Check out this spray chart of Aaron Judge's home runs between 2021 and 2023. Compare this to Brian Dozier's home runs between 2015 and 2017. Notice how many of Dozier's home runs were pulled. This wasn't by accident. In a 2016 interview, Dozier said his main objective was to create runs, describing a 300 hitter who slaps 5 to 10 home runs as less valuable than a 250 hitter who hits 25 to 30 home runs because they create less runs overall. So instead of hitting to all fields, where it's more likely a 350-foot fly ball turns into an out, Dozier took the extreme approach of elevating balls to the pull side to maximize his chances of run production. Not only did this result in the highest pull rate among all qualified hitters between 2014 and 2017, it resulted in one of the league's highest run totals. Still, similar to Brad Radke's career, the Twins weren't taking advantage of Dozier's prime years. Not only did his best season occur in the midst of the Twins' worst season of the 21st century, the only playoff appearance he made as a Twin was in the 2017 wild card. Obviously, Dozier hit a home run, but in the end, the Twins lost. Also, no one knew it yet, but Dozier's days in Minnesota were numbered. In 2018, his power noticeably declined, in part due to a bone bruise he suffered in his knee early in the year. Combine this with the Twins' lackluster record and Dozier's upcoming stint in free agency, the decision was made for a trade. Ironically, he was traded to a team who showed high trade interest when his value was at his peak after the 2016 season. The LA Dodgers, who were competing for a World Series. However, after he joined the Dodgers, he continued to decline, resulting in a bench role throughout the playoffs, but more importantly, no championship. Coming off a rough year, the soon-to-be 32-year-old Dozier was in a familiar position, needing to prove he belongs. Ultimately, Dozier signed a one-year prove-it deal with the Washington Nationals, who themselves were in the prove-it stage of their dwindling championship window. Unfortunately, the experiment started off rough, as after a loss on May 23rd, not only was Dozier performing poorly, the Nationals were 12 games under 500 with little hope for the playoffs. Well, so you'd think. Over the next few months, the Nationals clawed their way back into the playoff race, earning a wildcard spot and eventually a World Series championship.
3-2. Here it is! The Washington Nationals are world champions for the first time in franchise history.
Brian Dozier was now a champion, and he celebrated like it.
Scale of 1 to 1,000,000. How are you feeling right now?
1,000,001, baby! We are the world champions!
While guys like Juan Soto, Anthony Rendon, and Trey Turner are given the majority of the credit for this team's turnaround, Brian Dozier played a big part too. Sure, his overall season was mediocre and he didn't get a hit through the entirety of the playoffs, but between June and July, the months where the Nationals climbed back into the playoff race, Dozier produced comparable numbers to Rendon and Soto. Without Dozier's contributions, who knows where the National season ends up? Dozier's stint in DC ended after 1 year, eventually signing with both the Padres and Mets in 2020, but he couldn't stick with either team, eventually choosing to retire in early 2021. In less than a decade of big league baseball, Dozier accomplished more in his unique career than most ever do. Although, it's a shame the bulk of his career was wasted on lousy Twins teams, especially because he would have fit so well with the 2019 Twins, one of the greatest power-hitting teams in baseball history. Still, he was a bright spot for a franchise that needed it, not just on the field, but off the field as well, both in the clubhouse and Twin Cities communities. With Dozier expressing interest in a managerial career, we may see him back in the dugout sooner rather than later. Regardless, his accomplishments on the field shouldn't be forgotten. Throughout his baseball career, Dozier's abilities were constantly questioned, but all this did was ignite his urge to prove everyone wrong, and time after time, that's exactly what he did, resulting in one of the most uniquely impactful careers in recent memory. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, subscribe to Start Raving Sports, check out my channel Sports Storm, and leave your team icon idea in the comments below. Thanks for watching.